Woo, nice jump. We're going trout fishing. We're out here on the western side of South Dakota on a small stream. The waters are a little off colored. It's springtime, so it's runoff season, but not too bad. I think they're gonna be manageable. And I'm gonna give you guys 3 tips on how to fish nymphs under an indicator. This time of year, there's not too many things hatching. Maybe you'll get some blue-winged olives here and there on a rainy day, cloudy day. You'll get a nice blue-winged olive hatch. But today it's bright, sunny, clear sky day. So we're gonna use a small indicator so that we can throw some nymphs underneath it. So join me while I walk you through these 3 tips and we do some fishing. Fly fishing under an indicator is very simple, but it starts with the setup. So check it out. I've got a very simple 9-foot 5-weight rod with a weight forward floating line. And on the end of that floating line, I have a 9-foot 5X leader. Then I connect to that leader, I connect 5X tippet to my point fly, which is gonna be just a regular old simple caddis. If you're interested in the pattern that I'm using today, go ahead and check out my page. I've got a little tutorial on a caddis pattern that I know you'll love. Then, trailing behind that, I've got a little stonefly nymph. So that's a simple rundown of the setup. So let's get on the water and I'll show you some techniques on how to get into fish. So we're gonna start off here in this pool. It's the first place that I've come to. And I'm gonna give you guys the first tip. The first tip is the height at which you're fishing. The best advantage to fishing an indicator is to be able to set your depth exactly where you want it. So you can set your indicator higher up on your line, away from your point fly, to get deeper into the water, like into a deep pool like I'm fishing here. Or you could get it closer to your point fly and fish shallow. The rule of thumb there is to fish the height of your indicator on your line 2 times the depth of the water. That allows that current to be able to take your indicator and take the flies right down into the zone that you want it. You don't want those flies sitting right on the bottom of the water that you're fishing. You want them kind of, I would say about 4 inches off the bottom. That gives you a little bit of wiggle room so you're not ticking the bottom constantly, but you're getting into that water column that those fish are going to be sitting in. If your indicator is constantly going under the water, you're probably hitting the bottom. you don't want to be right on the bottom. The fish aren't eating off the floor of the water that you're fishing. Throughout the day, you're gonna have to change up the height. So getting an indicator that you can easily slide up and down your line is very effective. It's like here, we're fishing a small little pool. It's pretty deep, but I'll get to some longer runs that are a little bit more shallow, and I'll have to change the depth of my indicator. So we're coming up on this run here. It's a pretty long run. I'm gonna walk my way up it, short little spurts, fishing it from the tail end up to the head pool. Little side note with my first tip, whenever you're fishing an indicator and you're not catching any fish and you feel like you need to change flies, just stop. You don't need to change flies quite yet. Instead, change the height at which your flies are flowing down the stream. The fish could be sitting in different water columns and you're fishing at, and you're just not getting to where the fish are feeding at. And that's where a lot of people get stumped, is they just go right ahead and start changing their flies. Don't do that. Work on that fly a little bit. Work on those waters a little bit. Change the depth of your indicator. Change the depth of your fly so that you can touch all the water possible in that little area before you start changing flies up to something they possibly could not eat or don't want to eat. So I'm slowly making my way up this little run. I'm not sure if I've gotten snagged on the bottom or if I've actually gotten into some fish here. Wind's blowing a little bit. It's always my friend. Not. Tip number 2 with indicator fishing is controlling your line, controlling that drift. When that indicator is drifting down the stream, the river, whatever you're fishing, that's exactly what your flies look like. So the worse the drift is, the worse that those flies are gonna look unnatural. You want those flies as natural as possible so that those fish want to take it. So if your indicator has a bad looking drift, it's hitting in a couple different flows of water, and it's just being drugged down the river or stream, whatever you're fishing, you know it's wrong. So a couple ways of doing that is, one, don't fish through a couple different currents. Fish through one current, keep your line as tight as you can, control your line, or just throw men's into it. Those are some ways to really control that indicator, making sure that those flies are getting the best drift they can. So I've already changed the depth of my flies. Really haven't gotten any bites, which I'm not really liking. This water's a little tough to fish just because it is high water and the water's flowing pretty good. There's a nice fish. First bite, first take, first fish. Whoa, don't fall. head up, get him right into the net. Oh yeah, nice looking fish. This little natural brownie. Not a huge fish, but it's my first fish, so I'm happy with it. Get him off and running. We're here on another nice long run. I like these nice long runs. A lot of the time they're slow for me, catch a lot of fish, and they're just productive. We're in about knee-deep water here. It's kind of hard to keep my line off the water, but still try the best you can. I'm fishing that slow water again. You don't want to get too carried away going into those fast riffles. These riffles aren't too fast. This little area is not too fast, but these fish still aren't going to like to sit in there. They're going to be wanting to sit right along the edges, just like that. Those bugs are going to move nice and slow, so you want your flies to move nice and slow. Well, now that we've started fishing this little run, I'm gonna give you guys tip number 3. Tip number 3, when you're fishing indicators, is having the right indicator. I'm fishing an extra small, there's a fish. He's a small little guy. Whoa, 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 whoa. All right, dude, a little feisty. Small, but feisty. Small little guy. And there's another fish. Nice. Like I said, these long runs are nice and productive. Not a big guy, but it's fish number 3, baby. Let's go. Small little Frenchie I caught him on. Frenchie's off. Barbless hooks are great. Here he goes. But going back to tip number 2, if you have a fly that you really like, you know you have confidence in it, it's the right time of year, you don't have to change the depth. But keep it in mind. That really helps a lot of anglers out when they're just not catching anything and they're wondering, what the heck am I doing wrong? I know this fly catches fish, but I'm just not getting anything today. That's when you change the depth of your indicator. Change the depth of your fly. Having terrible line control here. Going back to tip number 3. Tip number 3 again, use the right type of indicator. Indicators can vary from very obnoxious slap on the water to very delicate presentations. The indicator that I'm using today is an Oros Extra Small. It's a pretty delicate presentation, but there's even better out there. It's called the New Zealand Wool Indicator. They're just strands of fibers, wool fibers, with a rubber band tied to your leader or tippet. It's not tied on, it's actually looped around, so it's very mobile. You can get it up and down your line very easily, very simply. Oh, there's a nice fish. But just keep that in mind. There's a lot of different indicators out there that you don't have to be this big blob slap on the water type of indicator. You can have a very delicate presentation. Wool indicators, they kind of blend in with the bubbles on the water. So the fish don't even know really that you're coming. Ah, nice fish. Almost missed him. Come upon another little pool here. Nice slow pool. I want to keep my indicator depth pretty high, which means my flies are going to be pretty low. You want to get those flies down to that depth that those fish are feeding at. So let's do a little recap on the 3 tips of indicator fishing. Tip number 1, depth of which your indicator is sitting at. Good rule of thumb, you want it to be 2 times the depth of the water. The higher your indicator is sitting, the lower your flies are going to be sitting. Tip number 2, presentation. That indicator shows you the presentation that you're showing the fish. Whatever your indicator is doing, that's what your flies are doing. So if there's a bad drag on your indicator, there's a bad drag on your flies. It's not giving a really good imitation of how those bugs or aquatic insects would be floating down the creek or river or whatever you're fishing. Even if you're fishing a lake, that indicator is showing you what your flies down below are doing. And tip number 3 is the type of indicator that you're using. So if you're on a really spooky stream, you want to use really delicate indicators, extra small Oros, or what I've already told you, a wool indicator or New Zealand indicator. That looks very similar to the bubbles on the water. There's multiple sizes of indicators. Just gotta go online and check them out and see what best fits those waters that you're fishing. There's a fish. Nice fish. Nice fighter. When you're fighting these fish, horizontal motions are your best friend. Side to side, it wears those fish out a lot more. Nice fish. Once you get them a little tired, and then grab that net. Get away from me. Woo, nice jump. Once you fight him, get his head up, right into the net. Nice fish. If you've stuck with me throughout this whole video, hit that subscribe button for me. It'd be greatly appreciated. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what I've done right, wrong, if you've enjoyed the video, or whatever it may be. And go ahead and hit that like button if you've liked the scenery, the fish, the type of fishing, the tips that I've given you, or just the action in general. Thanks guys for watching. Get out there and fish with some indicators, and get out there and fish hard.